It was a crisp Sunday morning in late April, the kind where the sun warms your skin just enough to make you forget winter's bite, and the air hums with the promise of new beginnings. In the quiet cul-de-sac of Willow Creek, a suburban haven nestled in the heart of Asheville, North Carolina, I decided to finally tackle the clutter that had been piling up in my garage. A yard sale seemed perfect to old hiking gear and used kitchen gizmos, maybe even that waffle maker I swore I'd master. I set up tables on my front lawn, humming to myself, blissfully unaware that a storm was brewing, dressed in a lavender cardigan and armed with a smile sharper than a switchblade. Her name was Vivian, the iron-fisted president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. If you've ever tangled with an HOA, you know they can turn a misplaced garden gnome into a federal case. But Vivian, she didn't just enforce rules, she wielded them like a scepter, ruling our little neighborhood like a monarch who'd memorized every bylaw and laminated them for posterity. That morning, she'd set her sights on my humble yard sale, determined to crush it before the first bargain hunter could snag a deal. I was arranging a stack of camping chairs when I spotted her. She stood at the edge of my lawn, clutching a clipboard so tightly her manicured nails practically glowed under the sunlight. Her eyes, cold and calculating, scanned my setup, every price tag, every dusty trinket like a general surveying a battlefield. Behind her trailed a trio of her loyal followers, their sympathetic nods and whispered judgments forming a chorus of disapproval. I could feel their stares, dissecting my every move, from the handwritten signs to the potted fern by my cash jar. "Excuse me." Vivian's voice cut through the morning calm, sweet as honey but laced with venom. "Did you file the mandatory yard sale permit with the HOA office 3 weeks prior to this event?" She lingered on 3 weeks, like it was scripture. I froze, mid-tape, and blinked at her. A permit? For a yard sale on my own property? I hadn't, because, like any reasonable person, I assumed selling a few old mugs didn't require a notarized application. "I'm afraid," she continued, her lips curling into a smile that could curdle milk, "you'll need to shut this down immediately. Unpermitted sales carry a due law $750 fine per day." She raised an eyebrow, daring me to challenge her. By now, a small crowd of early shoppers had gathered, their murmurs buzzing like static. I glanced at them, then back at Vivian, my pulse quickening. "Vivian," I said, keeping my voice steady, "it's just a yard sale. I'm not opening a flea market." But she was already snapping photos with her phony me tables, my fern, even the sidewalk chalk sign my neighbor's kid had drawn. "Evy Denke," she chirped, as if documenting a crime scene. "We can't allow unregulated commerce in a community like ours." The word commerce dripped with disdain, like I was running a black market operation. My blood boiled. The hypocrisy was galling. Just weeks ago, Vivian had thrown a community picnic in her backyard, charging $20 for lemonade and pocketing donations for her own causes. When she did it, it was neighborly. When I did it, it was a violation of sacred HOA doctrine. The worst part? She was technically right. Buried in the HOA's endless rulebook was a clause about pre-approved personal sales. No one enforced it until Vivian sniffed out an opportunity to flex her power. She didn't just want to stop my sale. She wanted to humiliate me, to make me a cautionary tale for anyone who dared defy her. The crowd's whispers grew louder, their eyes flicking between us like they were watching a showdown in a Western. I could feel the weight of their judgment, their curiosity, their quiet hope that I'd fight back. I took a deep breath, forcing a smile. "You're right, Vivian. I must have overlooked that rule. Since you're the expert, why don't you help me sort this out? You've got such a knack for details." Her smile flickered, just for a second. Vivian thrived on control, on brandishing rules like a whip. But she also craved the spotlight. I'd put her in a bind, push harder, and she'd look petty, back off, and she'd lose face. The crowd sensed it, their murmurs softening into a tense hush. "Fine," she snapped, scribbling on her clipboard with a fury that could have sparked a fire. "But you're still getting a citation." She stormed off, her heels clicking on the pavement, unaware that she'd just lit the fuse on her own downfall. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud or vengeful, it's quiet, cunning, and served with a side of poetic justice. In a few hours, Vivian would return, not with her clipboard, but with a fistful of cash, desperate to reclaim what she didn't even know she'd lost. Despite her efforts to smother my sale with red tape, the morning rolled on, and people kept coming. Maybe it was defiance, maybe it was the allure of a good deal, but my lawn became a bustling hub. Laughter filled the air, kids darted around, and my cash jar grew heavier. Vivian, meanwhile, wasn't done. When she couldn't win with rules, she turned to sabotage. It started subtly in an anonymous text to the HOA chat about my unpermitted signage, followed by a complaint about excessive noise. The only sound was chatter and a dog's occasional bark. I ignored it, knowing the first rule of dealing with someone like Vivian: starve their drama. But her tactics escalated. A sudden breeze toppled my book display. A soda accidentally spilled near my vintage plates. Then, my neighbor Lila caught Vivian unmistakable in her wide-brimmed hat and floral scarf sleely loosening the cap on my garden hose, letting it spray across the sidewalk. Lila snapped a photo, winking at me as she pocketed her phone. I bit back a laugh. Then came Vivian's boldest move. She returned with a stack of flyers, handing them out like a politician on election day. Unsanctioned sale subject to fines, they screamed in bold red. Please refrain from participating to uphold community standards. She worked the crowd with a rehearsed frown, sighing. It's such a shame when people ignore the rules. What happens to our neighborhood's integrity? To my delight, most people took her flyers, glanced at them, and tossed them in the trash. Some crumpled them right in front of her. One guy even asked if she was selling her famous lemonade, earning a chorus of stifled giggles. Vivian's face darkened, her composure cracking like thin ice. Then she made her fatal mistake. Storming to my free box, a jumble of chipped mugs, old candles, and tangled holiday lights, she started rifling through it, holding up items like they were evidence in a trial. This is junk, she declared, while VYing a cracked ceramic duck like a prosecutor. You're not hosting a salary littering. She tossed the duck back, shattering it. A gasp rippled through the crowd. A little girl nearby, who'd been clutching that duck moments earlier, burst into tears. For Vivian, who lived for appearances, upsetting a child was a disaster. I stepped forward, my voice calm but carrying. Vivian, maybe leave the kids' treasures alone. Or is breaking things part of the HOA handbook now? The crowd erupted claps, murmurs, even a "finally" from someone in the back. Vivian's mouth flapped, but no words came. Red-faced, she spun and stomped to her car, and that's when I noticed something. She rummaged in her trunk, pulling out a dusty box that screamed long-forgotten garage clutter. Marching back, she plunked it down by my tables. Donations, she announced, for your venture. I peeked inside mismatched plates, scratched frames, and a carved wooden music box that stopped me cold. I'd seen that box before, on a side table in Vivian's house during one of her insufferable HOA tours. She'd bragged about its $500 price tag for years. Now, it sat among her cast-offs, abandoned. The crowd leaned in, sensing a scandal. I lifted the box, turning it over. The boutique price tag was still there, faded but legible. How generous, Vivian, I said, my smile slow and deliberate. We'll price these right. Her eyes twitched at price. She opened her mouth, maybe to retract, but it was too late. The donation was public, witnessed by dozens. I grabbed a marker and wrote, Vintage Designer Music Box, $200. Vivian's jaw tightened, paid far more. The box barely hit the table before it drew eyes. Shoppers paused, admiring its craftsmanship. Vivian lingered nearby, pretending to browse, but watching like a hawk. She shifted, visibly uneasy, then vanished around the corner. Meanwhile, the box became a star, with a teen girl gasping over its velvet lining before her mom vetoed the purchase. Moments later, Vivian returned, dragging her husband, Paul, a weary man who mowed his lawn at precisely 1 p.m. every Sunday to avoid her wrath. She whispered sharply in his ear. Paul sighed, the universal sound of a man resigned to chaos, and shuffled to my table, a crumpled $20 bill in hand. How much for the box? He mumbled. $200, I said brightly. A rare find. He winced. Take $20. I shook my head. Sorry, it's a hot item. He trudged back to Vivian, who looked ready to combust. Minutes later, he returned with a crisp $100 bill. I'll take it. he said, practically throwing the money at me. I handed over the box with a cheerful, "Enjoy." The pattern repeated. Vi hovered, sent Paul or her HOA lackeys to haggle, and each time, I held firm. A gaudy vase she'd donated $30. A set of chipped coasters $20. A tacky but expensive lamp I remembered from her dining room $100. Paul paid every time, his wallet bleeding as Vivian's ego forced her to reclaim her treasures. Thanks to her own boasts about her designer decor, I priced everything higher than she'd paid. The crowd caught on, smirking as they admired her items, goading her into more buys. One neighbor loudly mused, "Isn't this Vivian's limited edition lamp? What a steal." Vivian flinched. As the sun sank, my cash jar overflowed, and Vivian's face morphed from smug to furious. She'd trapped herself every item she couldn't bear to lose cost her triple, and she couldn't complain without admitting she'd donated them. The neighborhood buzzed with conspiratorial glee. Lila sidled up, grinning. "You know, there's a community yard sale next month. You should get a booth. Vivian's stuff sells like hotcakes." I laughed, loud enough for heads to turn. Vivian's glare could have melted steel, but her reign was slipping. That day sparked something bigger. Quiet chats between neighbors, once strangers, grew into a shared mission. Vivian had ruled the HOA for 7 years, her whims rubber-stamped by a compliant board. But nothing unites like a common foe. Lila planted the seed over lemonade. The HOA elections next month. What if someone else ran? Smiles spread like wildfire. It wasn't just me, and Lilate was Tom, fined for his unsightly bird feeder. Mrs. Nguyen, forced to repaint her door, approved taupe. Even the quiet Dr. Sharma, nodding fiercely. "She's been chair too long," Tom said. 7 years of fines, and her mandatory gala no one likes. Lila raised her cup. Dictators get overthrown. The plan was simple. Oust Vivian in the election. Flyers would circulate. Petitions would gather signatures. Neighbors swapped numbers, plotting like revolutionaries. Vivian, blind to the shift, assumed we were too timid to challenge her. She didn't know her crusade against my sale had ignited a rebellion. Then Lila dropped a bombshell. "Check your email," she texted, with flame emojis. Attached was the HOA's financial report, public but obscure. Buried in the numbers were Vivian's sins. Dula $3,000 for consulting to her cousin's firm. Dula $2,500 for security that matched her new fence. Dula $4,000 to an event planner, her friend from out of town. Small enough to dodge notice, but they added up to tens of thousands, all signed by Vivian. We moved fast. Flyers announced my candidacy, promising transparency and fairness. A website laid out Vivian's creative accounting, with screenshots, letting the numbers speak. By Monday, flyers hit every mailbox. One slipped under Vivian's door. The neighborhood chat exploded. "Is this real?" someone posted, sharing the expense report. "Her new patio cost our money." Vivian's rambling defense claiming community betterment fell flat. Sarcasm flooded the chat. "So unity means her new pergola?" We filed a no-confidence vote, backed by 55 fan tram of households well over the 30 fan tram needed. Vivian, desperate, hosted a neighbor appreciation event with flat soda and stale pastries. People came, but not for her. They gawked at her La Vysh backyard, funded by community improvements. The election date was set. Vivian ran, but this time, she faced me. Election day crackled with energy. My table outside the community center was simple, a clipboard, a vase of sunflowers. Vivian's was a spectacle, banners, balloons, Paul in a matching shirt handing out flyers no one took. She wore a blazer in 85-degree heat, her smile brittle as she pitched experienced leadership. Most voters brushed her off. One, Mr. Evans, said, "We're trying fresh air, Vivian." Her eye twitched. Our display of her financial misdeed charts, invoices, photos of her patio stood silently, devastatingly. Vivian hissed, "You can't do this." Lila smiled. "It's public record, Vivian. Transparency's key." Voting hummed along, the air electric. Vivian unraveled, snatching a flyer from a voter, who marked her ballot with a flourish. The count was public. Lila announced the results. I won in a landslide. Vivian froze, croaking, Fraud. Lila shrugged. File a complaint. The new chair will handle it fairly. Laughter cleansed years of her tyranny. Vi stormed out, her balloons sagging, Paul trailing with a box of uneaten pastries. Neighbors planned a barbecue. Kids chalked freedom on the pavement. But Vi didn't quit. She flooded the HOA inbox with demands for recounts, audits, even claiming the bylaws were invalid. We ignored her, launching an audit of HOA finances. The findings were grim. Missing funds, fake invoices, tens of thousands funneled to Vi projects. We sued for embezzlement. When papers were served on her pristine porch, she shrieked at the server. The news hit the local paper, cementing her disgrace. The neighborhood bloomed without her bright doors, bird feeders, gnome armies. Vi's lawn withered, her gold mailbox tarnished. She vanished from meetings, her lawsuit attempts fizzling. The suit dragged, but she settled, repaying funds and selling her house. The for sale sign was a monument to her defeat. Buyers mocked her neglected yard. Paul left, moving to his sisters. When movers arrived, Vi caught me watching from my porch, clutching that Do La 200 music box. Her eyes were hollow, her fight gone. Months later, Lila and I spotted her at a discount furniture store, a shadow of her former self, selling patio sets in a red vest. Lila grinned. Help us find outdoor furniture? 4 yard sales and barbecues. Vi's jaw clenched, but she nodded, leading us silently. We browsed, bought nothing, and left, the doors whooshing shut on her past. The neighborhood thrived. HOA meetings became patio chats. We started a community garden, held annual yard sales. Each year, someone brought a cracked duck or that music box, priced at Do La 200 as a joke. They never sold, they were trophies. One summer, a kid found the box and asked, "What's this?" His mom laughed. "A trophy, kiddo." Years later, Vi sent a letter demanding her property, the duck, the box, even the old HOA chair we'd auctioned. We read it at a meeting, laughing so hard we framed it, hanging it in the community center with a plaque, in memory of her reign. 7 years of rules, 1 epic yard sale. Newcomers ask, and we tell the tale of a woman who tried to rule with fear, only to buy her own junk at triple the price and lose it all. Vi thought she was untouchable. She learned the hard way. Rules don't protect you when the community laughs. We toasted her at every barbecue, raising lemonade to the queen who ruled nothing. What's the wildest HOA drama you've seen? Should neighbors fight petty tyrants like Vi or just move? Is revenge sweeter when it's public or quiet? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more neighborhood sagas. Share this with someone who's faced their own Vi and they'll get it.